How you doing? Mr. DJ's back, resuming the countdown of my fantasy playlist. We'll try to get in a few videos tonight. Fantasy playlist of the fall of 1986, the week of November 29th, 1986, about 29 years ago. My goodness, can you believe it? I don't. I just watched bits and pieces of Billy Ocean's video. The song I'm going to play for you, Love is Forever. And boy, it brought back some memories. Hadn't seen that video in years. Used to watch it on Night Tracks on WTBS. And I know I mentioned Night Tracks a lot when I count down the songs from the 80s, but I tell you what, they play a lot of great videos. They were a lot better than the FM stations that were coming into this market because they played a lot of bands. They played a lot of newer stuff that you never heard on the radio. But Billy Ocean, no problem here. This is very much a mainstream record. Love is Forever at number 34. Billy Ocean, his real name, Leslie Charles. Is it Charles Leslie or Leslie Charles? Leslie Charles, I believe. Leslie Charles Sebastian. Leslie Sebastian Charles. Uh, he was originally from Trinidad, and he moved to London with his parents when he was about 7 years old. But boy, he got a culture shock when he was real young. Can you imagine? You're down in Trinidad, you're down in the Caribbean. It's warm year round. And he grew up at an edge of a cocoa, a chocolate plantation, and he spent his time running around in the bush. He was shirtless, wore short trousers, just very warm in the 80s and 90s year round. But when they moved to London, oh boy, it was cold. It was a completely different climate, much more urban climate too. But he adjusted to it. Eventually became a tailor during the daytime, sang in the nightclubs, sang his heart out in the nightclubs in London at night. This would be by about the late 60s, early 70s. He changed his name to Billy Ocean by the early 70s. Can't give you the exact year that happened. I would say probably around 1971, 72, 73. And I don't know where the Billy came from, but the Ocean came from a place that he lived at called Ocean Estate. It was in London's East End. He lived there. Therefore, Billy Ocean. I always keep coming back to the first record that Billy Ocean came out with, and people have forgotten about it. It was one of his most, actually, I think this is probably his most passionate record. Love Really Hurts Without You in the spring of 1976. It was a huge hit in England, went to number 2, I think, in England. Might have went to number 1 in Britain. Here in the U.S., it went to number 22, despite extensive airplay on the AM top 40 stations. But it wasn't until he signed with Jive Records in 1984 and he released the album Suddenly that Billy Ocean just exploded. It seemed seemingly right out of nowhere with Caribbean Queen. That went to number 1. There was Loverboy that came right on the heels of that, and Suddenly was a hit record for him. And there was also Love Song. Love Song was a pretty big record for Billy Ocean in 1986 from the album Love Song. And there was Sad Songs. There'll be Sad Songs from about 1985, I think. And here's the deal about Billy Ocean. I guess I've directed this to those who wasn't even born in the 80s who may be watching this video. Billy Ocean, along with Whitney Houston, Kool and the Gang, Lionel Richie, all of these African American R&B artists back in the 80s, they were mass appeal artists in the sense that they not only appealed to African Americans, but they appealed to everybody, every race. Michael Jackson, another classic example of a mass appeal artist that that surpassed the gender, that surpassed the racial stuff, and they became well known across the world. International penetration. And they also crossed the age gap. It wasn't just teenagers and young adults who liked Billy Ocean and Michael Jackson. The people who are in their 30s, people who grew up in the 60s like Billy Ocean. Many of them like Billy Ocean and Michael Jackson. Some of the people in their 40s too. That's your classic mass appeal artist right there, Billy Ocean. And he's at number 34 on my fantasy playlist. Love is Forever, up 2 from 36. The song went to number 16 on Billboard's Hot 100.